Let's see. Let's get another question here, Jim. This one was sent in to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Mike Schultz. There is a funny family story that I would like to share that happened at the Evansville Coliseum, either before I was born or when I was very young. My grandparents, Mama and Papa, took my older sister to the Coliseum for wrestling. During a tag team match, my Mama, I guess that's how you pronounce it, M-A-M-M-A-W.
Mama. His grandmother.
My grandmother, I'll use grandmother, threw her soft drink at Joe LeDuc. Security came over and said she had to leave. She turned to my Papa and said, well, aren't you coming?
Papa. God, you're so northern.
Well, I guess so. And said, well, aren't you coming? To which he replied, I didn't get kicked out. You did.
Yeah.
My grandmother spent the rest of the show outside in the car. When I first heard this story, I asked why she threw her Coke on Joe LeDuc. Her reply was, because he wouldn't tag Bill Dundee. My question is, can you estimate what year this may have been based on Joe LeDuc apparently turning on Bill Dundee? I don't know if there was a turn or not, but if so, would you have been there to witness this event? Was my grandmother justified?
Well, Mama may be slightly off, although it could have been a thing they just did that night. And I would estimate the year was 1978. It was Joe LeDuc's first run here. And I would, because if it was the 84 run, Dundee wouldn't have been here. He would have been in Mid-South. I would also say that either Mama was mistaken and that it was a tag team match or a match involving Bill Dundee. I don't remember them ever switching him babyface just so they could switch him heel back by not tagging Bill Dundee. So there's some missing details here, but I can believe that Joe LeDuc was wrestling against Bill Dundee in 1978 in the Evansville Coliseum, and his Mama threw a Coke on him. And I can also believe that his grandfather wouldn't leave, but at least if it was LeDuc, it was the main event. So she didn't have to sit out there very long.
Did LeDuc ever have any kind of run at all in Memphis where he was a babyface? Even a small one?
I think he was a special partner maybe once. And see, that's like a minutia that Mark James would have to run down. But I believe he may have been special partner in the couple of days when like Randy Savage was in, and he might have teamed up with Lawler as the the team of former enemies or whatever. But he never had any type of sustained babyface run in Memphis like he did in Knoxville
and Florida.
Well, he did it several, and Montreal for that matter. He did it. He was apparently a really good fucking babyface. Of course, he was tailor-made for Montreal because he was French Canadian, spoke French, and and a lumberjack. My God. But he was a good babyface in Florida and other places. So he could work, and he was so believable at whatever he was fucking doing. It's just that actually maybe the reason why he was so effective in Memphis as a heel, that run with Lawler, but then he didn't really come back for anything but guest shots after that until like in 1984 or so. He was in for a little while, but by then he was almost ready to retire.
We were talking about LeDuc a little bit with Ron Fuller on the Studcast recently, and I forget how it came up exactly, but he talked about a night in Southeastern where he wrestled Jacques Rougeau, and Jacques Rougeau came back from the match crying because he had gotten beaten so bad by Joe LeDuc. So I figured maybe there was some family heat from Montreal, but it got to a bigger discussion about Jacques Rougeau.
I don't know. It could have, with Jacques Rougeau, it could have just been heat from that fucking night.
Well, that was going to be my question.
He could piss you off at any given point, I'm sure.
Well, based on what Ron was telling me about Jacques Rougeau's reception in Southeastern, how did he get over in the locker room in Memphis?
Oh, my God. And Jacques' a very successful retired businessman / celebrity up there in Quebec now, so I'm sure he won't mind that I share this small bit of his embarrassingness in his rookie years. But he just didn't fit Tennessee. He came in and he was French Canadian, and French Canadians have a natural air about them or manner of speaking or whatever that it's natural to them and just irritates the fuck most, especially out of Southern people. But Jacques came in with aspirations of being a top babyface, I believe. And, and he had it in his bloodlines. He's, offspring of huge stars in wrestling in Canada. But I remember the quote, and I don't know if it was somebody in a car, but the story was told in the locker room, that apparently Lawler's driving to fucking Nashville from Memphis one night, and he's got Jacques Rougeau in the car with him and somebody else. Lawler, not only at this point, is not only the booker, but he's the owner of the fucking part owner of the territory. And the subject came up of turning Jacques heel, right? Because he was not going to appeal to the people in the South when they had baby faces like Terry Taylor and all the baby faces they had, right? That were at the time the Rock and Roll Express, the fabulous ones, Jerry Lawler, Dutch Mantell, etc. Dundee, I think, was still a baby face at that point. So they start talking about turning Rougeau heel, and Rougeau looks at Lawler and says, "What's the matter, big boy? You afraid I get over you? Meaning if you leave me a baby face, I'll be a bigger star than you are." Well, fuck. If that was it, the next week, he was not only a heel, he was underneath fucking heel. He was, and that's when he wanted to come out to music, as we just talked about coincidentally a few minutes ago. Not everybody got music. There was the top guys got the Fabs, Lawler, whatever. They got music. So fucking Jacques, when they switch him heel, he gets the biggest boom box that he can find at the time. And Dirty Laundry was hot. Don Henley. It was like 83, that time period. He gets the fucking boom box and puts it on his shoulder and plays his own music when he's going out to the ring in like the Louisville Gardens. It's a 6,000 seat arena. He's got that boom box turned all the way up. I'm sure it fried his fucking brains. But that got even more heat with the fans and the office, right? So that became his gimmick. They wouldn't play music for him. He'd play it on his own fucking boombox, right? Rock and roll Jacques Rougeau. And it was... and so anyway, and then, and then he was gone.